Elsewhere, FBI Director Kash Patel has announced a surge in resources to investigate alleged fraud in Minnesota social programs, which has led to dozens of arrests and indictments and has largely tainted the state's Somali immigrant population.
Alleged? I thought we've already had convictions for more than 53 people. Jonathan Lemire. By the way, you were great in Beauty and the Beast. Isn't he the candlestick? I think so. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show Monday, the last Monday of 2025. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have a pile of things to get to today. And that clip from this morning over on MS13 Now, where Jonathan Lemire and Mara Gay are sharing their opinions, this looks to be the plan. This is probably the talking point that has come out now, and that is to shift the blame, shift the focus of what's going on. Nick Shirley comes out with a video that has been viewed 100 million times. I just want you to wrap your head around that. 100 million times. Wouldn't MS13 Now, wouldn't MSNBC or NBC News just crave to get 100 million views on anything over the course of, a week or a year? This happened over the course of a couple of days. Nick Shirley, 23-year-old independent journalist who goes to Minnesota, knocks on the doors of a handful of reported medical centers, of daycare centers, of medical insurance and healthcare organizations, only to be rebuffed at virtually every one. Only one place opened the door and let him in and kind of pretended to take his information. Just one. The rest of them shut the doors, slammed them in his face, basically told him to take a hike, to go pound sand. We weren't going to talk to you. One of them even accused him of being racist, has said that even asking the questions of putting his kid in a daycare center was racist. But that's what they do. They play the race card to try and shut you up. But what it appears now, rather than NBC News or MS13 News dispatch an investigative crew to the Minnesota and St. Paul, Minneapolis and St. Paul region, no, they've decided to say this is a distraction from alleged fraud. You have a U.S. attorney who has credibly accused the fraud and claiming the fraud is now as large or almost as large as the $12 billion GDP of the country of Somalia. Let that sink in. One state. We have 50 states. How big is the fraud? Nick Shirley claims that in one weekend, maybe even one day, he and his researcher David uncovered $110 million in fraud that they've discovered. It's astounding. And by saying that the FBI is now unleashing more investigations, Kash Patel is saying it's part of an ongoing investigation. I, for one, would like to see some real arrest action, some perp walks. We know what happened after January 6th and how long people were held in the D.C. gulag without any bail opportunities. I'd like to see some of the people involved in this fraud credibly accused and tried, but I'd also like to see them perp walked. While Jonathan Lemire up there on MS13 Now and filling in for Amika and Joe was trying to misdirect the attention of their viewers, Mara Gay is also weighing in on this. She from the New York Times.
There's a lot we don't know here just yet, but it gives off at least a sense, and we'll see where the facts take us. but at least we can safely say this. It seems like Republicans are eager to be talking about
Sure.
something else
Sure.
than a lot of the bad news surrounding the president right now.
Right. Well, sure.
Well, sure. Yeah. Well, what's the bad news? We had a GDP number that came in last week that was so huge, it caused a gasp at CNBC when it was announced. You have a report that the economy is starting now, after 10 and a half months of Trump policies being allowed to take effect, that it's starting to turn. You have gas prices that are at points where people are. I got a picture of a gas pump in Texas this weekend that somebody bought gas for $1.92 a gallon. So you want to talk about bad news? You have a president who hosted the president of Ukraine at Mar-a-Lago yesterday, and President Trump and President Zelensky actually talking about there may be progress towards peace. Now, we know that you got to build in Vladimir Putin to this equation. It's only two of the three voices we need to hear from, but there was a little bit of a positive tone, at least from what I was hearing.
We had a terrific meeting. We discussed a lot of things. As you know, I had an excellent phone call with President Putin that lasted for over 2 hours. We discussed a lot of points, and I do think we're getting a lot closer, maybe very close. The president and I just spoke to the European leaders. They were President Emmanuel Macron of France, President Alexander Stubb of the Republic of Finland, President Karol Nawrocki of the Republic of Poland, Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store of the Kingdom of Norway.
So President Trump is doing what all the Democrat screamers on the left side of the mainstream media have always said that they want a leader to do: build a coalition. He's bringing in all the European leaders who are going to be necessary to help keep the security of Ukraine once an agreement has been reached. But no, over on MSNBC, we're being told that, this is all a distraction. This is a complete distraction from the problems the president's having. Now, is the economy fixed totally? No, of course not. But you can do more than one thing at a time. Just so infuriated and frustrated by these people on the left. Do you want to join the conversation on this? 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Jasmine is on the phones today, and I'm really thinking, if I were emperor, I would force Jasmine Crockett to change her name, because I think she's besmirching the fine reputation of our Jasmine. Their Jasmine is messing up our Jasmine. So I would hope that Jasmine Crockett, maybe we'll just start calling her Jazzy and keep our Jasmine the only Jasmine. That's just my own personal thought. Back to the Minnesota story. I know I'm doing the Trump weave, right? The president says he does the weave. We talked about the Shirley video. This journalist who has put out this video, and it's 42 minutes long, and I do encourage you to take time to go through the whole thing. You see the knocking on doors. You see the allegedly Somali people. I didn't check their IDs, but they're all part of the same community, which is predominantly from Somalia. And they are shutting out Mr. Shirley from his efforts to go in and just to ask questions about the millions of dollars. In one day, they discovered over $110 million in fraud. The millions of dollars in money being sent, and where are the kids? Where are the children? Nobody knows. We watch the whole thing. You'll also see the fact that Mr. Shirley and his helper, David, the gentleman who's done the research on some of the other fraud, they are now being followed by Somalis. When they go from one location to the other, there are cars following them. A journalist, another journalist, not Tim Shirley, went to the governor, fondly known as Tampon Tim, and was asking about the Somali fraud and about the reports, credible reports, that whistleblowers have been turned away or threatened and or pressured. Governor Walsh has little to say.
Governor Walsh, what can you say about the latest on the Somali fraud that happened under your watch, sir?
Governor, have you been able to apologize yet to the people of Minnesota for allowing this Somali fraud to continue under your watch?
Of the people of Minnesota.
Is it time to apologize? How about the whistleblowers that you have allegedly retaliated against? Would you like to respond to the whistleblowers?
And right now, our neighbors.
So then the video cuts to Governor Walsh up at a podium at this gathering that he was entering to address the faithful. And Walsh is not paying any attention to what's going on, to the fraud around him.
Right now, our neighbors are being demonized. Our neighbors are being terrorized.
Our neighbors are being demonized. Our neighbors are being terrorized.
Our neighbors are being picked up off the streets.
Our neighbors are being picked up off the streets. You mean people here illegally are being captured by ICE and maybe sent somewhere else? A nice set of priorities, Governor.
The antidote to that is positive actions to improve lives that go against what they're trying to do.
So Governor Walz is saying that he wants positive action to improve lives against what the federal government, ICE agents, Homeland Security are trying to do. What does that even mean, sir? What in the wide, wide world of sports are you even talking about? He's just spitting out all kinds of nonsense, as it were. It's complete nonsense. The fraud is apparent. The fraud is all around him. Unless and until we start seeing people arrested, people being locked up, I think we have to stay loud. But we're not seeing CBS News. We're not seeing NBC. We're not seeing, obviously, MSNBC, ABC. If we pay attention today, I would bet that we are going to see some sort of spin being put on this, as we just saw from MS-13 Now. I think there was one report, possibly one report from CBS News, and I credit Barry Weiss for this. The new editor-in-chief of CBS News is Barry Weiss. She's the one who pulled the story on 60 Minutes last week, and the left was freaking out, and it was because the story was one-sided. The great Cheryl Atkinson watched the report that was pulled and said Barry Weiss was right to do it. But CBS apparently may have had a little bit of a journalistic wake-up now that Barry Weiss is head of CBS News. I couldn't believe I saw this one morning on CBS.
Exclusive details this morning of how people in Minnesota spend hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on luxury cars and real estate. Now, this money was stolen apparently from programs that provided services to poor children. Many of the accused are Somali Americans, a fact that President Trump has used to criticize the broader community in general.
So that actually went out over the airwaves of CBS News. Maybe there is an awakening happening. I do believe it is the influence of Barry Weiss, who's now the editor-in-chief of CBS News. She has the ability to drive actual journalism back into the place that used to be the diamond of journalism. The phone lines, as I said, have been hopping all morning already. Let's go to line one. Jim in Deep Creek Lake. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Happy New Year to you.
Oh, Happy New Year to you, too, as well. Thank you. I think that maybe President Trump needs to light a fire under Pam Bondi. I'd like to see some prosecutions down the line. She needs to really get on the stick. There's a lot of things going on that she needs to really – I don't know what's going on with her, but, man, she's just really dropped the ball on a lot of things. I was really hoping that she would really go a lot farther than she has, and she's just really, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're choosing your words very carefully, and I respect that. I will say without pause that Pam Bondi has been one of the disappointments, one of very few disappointments of the first year of President Trump's second term, that I, like you, would like to see more action. And I start with the theater of the binders from the Epstein days, months ago. And I think we need to stop with the theatrics and just have action, action, action. And if we don't start seeing it soon, I would not be opposed if the president did what he would do on The Apprentice and say, you're fired. We'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. You want to join the conversation, you can. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. It's Opelka in for Plant on The Chris Plant Show. And welcome back to the Chris Plant Show. It's Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant. It is Monday, last Monday of 2025, counting down to the end of the year. We'll be here. I'll be here through the end of the year, and then we'll kick off the new year together on Friday, God willing. Talking about trying to get to everything. President Trump is trying to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, trying to maybe sit down with the president, the prime minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, today, and we'll hear what's going on with the plans for Iran and the Somali story, which seems to grow. The fraud and corruption seems to grow every single day. And the best way to hear about it is to talk to the people from the area. I'm very happy John, who lives in Minneapolis, is calling. John, welcome to the Chris Plant Show. What's on your mind?
Well, thank you for taking my call. I just have some comments, and these, they're generalizations. It's not all Somalis, but I live around them, and I must say that, their values generally are a bit different from mine. They don't respect gay people. They hate transgender people. Women are second-class citizens, and the majority, not all again, are not really interested in assimilating. And it's the Democratic Party in Minnesota that it's a lot of hypocrisy. They're not really looking at things genuinely. They're just looking at them through the woke perspective. And that's really damaging, not just to the Somali community, but to all of us as a whole.
Well, if they're not assimilating and they're creating their own community, which operates in kind of a parallel universe, it's not really benefiting America to have people here. And then, for my money, John, to have them bilking the system to the tune of billions of dollars. There's got to be a point where Minnesota nice becomes Minnesota, we're tired of you punching us. And I understand the benefits of kindness, but at some point, Minnesota's got to wake up and stop being the battered wife. Welcome back to the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Thanks for being here. It is a Monday, last Monday of the year, and we'll get to some of the New Year countdown stuff, but we have a lot of hot topics to continue to address that are all tied together, including a story breaking yesterday, late yesterday, saying that the alleged January 6th pipe bomber has confessed. An hours-long confession from the gentleman named Brian Cole admitting his actions. And he was arrested several weeks ago, December 4th. And he's saying in the confession, the details had been leaked, that he wasn't targeting the certification of Biden's victory. No, that's not what he was up to. Oh, that's interesting. I'm wondering when we're going to see all of this thrown out, because this guy is going to be declared mentally incompetent because of the alleged autism. I'm wondering. He in his confession, Mr. Cole says he set the devices, the two bombs, to detonate 60-minute timers. So they were intended to go off 60 minutes after he planted them. So I guess he screwed up. Very interesting. We'll watch this. I'm wagering we're going to see some push from his attorney and or the media on the left-hand side to say, no, you can't try this guy because autism. And then we'll have autism will be like the new Twinkie defense. Those of you who are old enough to remember the Twinkie defense. If you want to join us, I said 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625 is the number. Jasmine's on the phones, and I mentioned earlier, I really would like the congressional rep from Texas who is running for the Senate to change her name, because there's only one Jasmine in our world, and she happens to be helping us answering the phones today. And if you're wondering about Jazzy, last week she talked very clearly about just how authentic she is, right? Well, here's an example of Jasmine Crockett from her Christmas message that came out December 28th. How authentic she is.
God bless you all. Merry Christmas. I'm going to go get my grub on in a second because otherwise my mama going to get at me. But I just wanted to check in with you, and I wanted to make sure that y'all know that I will always make sure I'm doing my part to stay connected to the real people.
I'm doing my part to stay connected to the real people. Does that mean talking like you've never attended a basic English class? I need to diagram this sentence here after she says, God bless you. I thank you for the blessing, but what came after that?
God bless you all. Merry Christmas. I'm going to go get my grub on in a second because otherwise my mama going to get at me.
I'm going to go get my grub on in just a second because my mama going to get at me. Can anyone translate? Seriously, please. Texas, you have choices to make. I know she's got to get through a primary process, but there are a lot of people on the left who think that Jasmine Crockett is the answer to the Democrats' problems. A lot of people on the left. I don't understand. And while we're on the subject of people who might have issues with reality, can we talk about Rosie O'Donnell? I praised Rosie O'Donnell for living up to her promise to leave the country if Donald Trump won the election. She left. She's in Ireland. But because of social media, she's never really left. She's still here. And over the course of the past 2 weeks, we have been treated, using the Chris Plant-approved air quotes with my fingers, to Rosie O'Donnell sharing some of the advice that her therapist has given her, saying that you need to unplug for a couple days. Rosie, you need to just not focus on Donald Trump for just take 3 days. And I don't think there's been a 3-day period in which Rosie O'Donnell's been capable of doing it. And she kind of fell really into a bizarre abyss this past weekend.
In the news about you-know-who. He's making crazy posts like someone with temporal frontal lobe dementia.
Wait a minute. Rosie O'Donnell, who, again, has Trump derangement syndrome so badly that she can't say his name. She calls him you-know-who. It's the same problem over with the Harpies on The View. Whoopi Goldberg calls it, that man. And Rosie's saying you-know-who. And she's saying that Donald Trump is making crazy posts. You point a finger out, 3-point right back at you, Rose. Now, she said something here that's kind of, I question this. What did she say?
In the news about you-know-who. He's making crazy posts like someone with temporal frontal lobe dementia.
Temporal frontal lobe dementia. Temporal frontal lobe dementia. Explain, Rosie.
And out of control. When are they going to do the 25th Amendment? That's the question.
The 25th. Okay, so we're going back to the 25th Amendment. We just got through 4 years of Joe Biden, a guy who is cognitively impaired to the point where he couldn't recognize George Clooney. And you're telling us that you want the 25th Amendment on Donald Trump.
When are they going to say this is no longer manageable for anyone? And he needs to be stopped.
When you say anyone, are you referring to yourself? Because that's sure what it feels like. Now, she said temporal frontal lobe dementia, right? That was what Rosie O'Donnell is diagnosing Donald Trump's problem. And I haven't seen a problem, but that's what she's claiming, that Donald Trump has temporal frontal lobe dementia. That doesn't exist. There is something called frontotemporal dementia, FTD, not the floral company, but frontotemporal dementia, also known as frontal temporal degeneration. And that's a standard medical term, involves the progressive damage to the frontal temporal lobes in the brain. It's a rare neurodegenerative disorder. So rare. How did Rosie O'Donnell come to land on this diagnosis? She's not a doctor. She's never had the chance to examine Donald Trump. Not that I've heard. She didn't give any evidence to it, but she's saying that Donald Trump has, in her words, temporal frontal lobe dementia, and that means he must be thrown out of office. Rare. FTD is part of a rare neurodegenerative disorder group, primarily affecting the frontal lobes, and it involves language, emotions, and memory processing. Does President Trump seem to have any problems with language, emotions, and memory processing? Well, he gets mad at people, and I get mad at people too. And I looked up some of the symptoms of this. Apathy. President Trump have apathy? No, he's pretty darn focused on things. Inappropriate behavior, socially inappropriate behavior. I've been watching the president with heads of state. Not socially inappropriate. He's one of the best hosts ever. In fact, over the weekend, yesterday, when Zelensky was at Mar-a-Lago, and the president was sitting down with his crew, with the Ukrainian leader and their crew, the president looked at the members of the press and said, we're eating. Would you guys like some food? And as being a good guest, he actually showed his empathy and offered them food, and I think he set them up on the patio outside at Mar-a-Lago. So, Rosie, wrong on that one. Language problems, difficulty speaking, finding words, understanding the language, or loss of the meaning for words of objects. What? No, Rosie. No, Rosie. This is just wrong. But then again, Rosie O'Donnell is so obsessed with President Trump, she can't heed the advice of her own her own therapist. And she went from this latest rant demanding the 25th Amendment to an appearance on the Jim Acosta show, which Jim Acosta, known to this audience as Abilio Acosta, because that's his actual real name, but he wanted to be known as Jim. Jim Acosta has a show somewhere on the internets, and Rosie O'Donnell was, it's a live show too. Acosta hosts kind of a panel sit down in front of a live audience, and Rosie O'Donnell appeared, and she went on yet another anti-Trump rant.
He is honestly psychotic. I think the man is mentally delusioned, living in his own reality.
Wait. Again, let's remember, point a finger, 3 pointing right back at you, madam. What were those things you accused Trump of?
He is honestly psychotic. I think the man is mentally delusioned, living in his own reality. He has no understanding of the world, of empathy, of compassion, of basic humanity. Yeah. He is really a mentally ill person.
Rosie O'Donnell declaring in one post that Donald Trump has a neurodegenerative disease that is a rare disease, but, you know, she's such an expert, and now she has declared him a mentally ill person. Again, what we see in others or what we claim to see in others, we should so often recognize in ourselves. Really. I hope somebody gets help for Rosie. It gets worse.
And it was, you know, there were so many doctors who came out when he was in the first go-round with this insanity, when he wasn't even on hyperdrive like he is now, older and less wise. He is now, they made a book that said The Duty to Warn, where psychiatrists, leading psychiatrists in the country in his first term, were saying he is so narcissistic and mentally unfit that they felt it was their duty to warn the American public.
No warning of the American public about the mental decline of Joe Biden. Not a bit. Not a single moment of any group of doctors stepping up. Rosie O'Donnell names an unknown group of doctors saying that the President of the United States, we have a duty to warn.
Yeah. But the American public, you know, I don't know, some of his people are under that spell of him.
Buddy, I'll tell you who's under the spell of him. It's you. Madam, you are under the spell.
Took that mental, the mental competency test or whatever he says, that he aced the cognitive test. He always says, I aced the cognitive test, where they did man, person,
he says
camera.
Dog, brush, man, north, south. I mean, the fact that he doesn't have the intellectual capacity to understand what a moron he is.
It must be terrible to be Rosie O'Donnell, to be trapped in your own self-exile. I kind of feel bad for her. The phones are hopping. Let me grab a quick call before we take a break here. Chet is in Linden, Virginia. Hello, Chet.
Hey,
welcome.
Good afternoon. Hey, listen, been listening to the show for a long time, but Mark Levin had a young man sitting in for him a couple of nights ago that went through all the good stuff that Trump and his administration has accomplished in this first year. Why don't more conservative stations do that instead of telling us about Rosie O'Donnell, the View girls, and all that other crap? Nobody cares about those people. We want to hear the good things that Trump is doing.
Chet, we did talk, and we have talked about the accomplishments of the president as it relates to the economy. Earlier this hour, we talked about the blockbuster GDP report we got last week that showed the president is accomplishing what he set out to do in turning the economy around. We talked about the border ad nauseum. We talked about how the border has been sealed and it didn't require an act of Congress. It required a new president. We talked about how it feels like gas prices. I quoted earlier, gas prices. I got a snapshot of the pump in Texas from a friend of mine who paid $1.92 a gallon. So we're trying to give you a full spectrum. And I do think it's important to talk about, Chad, what do you think about the fraud in Minneapolis? Is that not important to lay bare?
That's important, but then you have judges that are leaving these criminals off the hook.
That's true. That's true, but we have to talk about, we need to let people know. And you brought up a really important case. There is a judge who overturned a jury's conviction of one of these fraudsters and set the guy free. A jury convicted the guy, and a judge in Minnesota said, I'm sorry, I'm wiping out the conviction. So, yeah, I get what you're talking about. I do think we also try and have some fun with the stupidity of the obsession of the Rosie O'Donnells and the women on The View. Some of their hyperbole makes us laugh a little bit. So we do try that, Chad. But I appreciate you. All right, I'm stepping aside, taking a break. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. And welcome back to the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in again for my friend Chris Plant. We'll take you through the end of the year and then kick off the new year on Friday. And then Chris will return. He and I were exchanging holiday messages over the weekend, as a matter of fact, and laughing about many things. Because it is important we laugh, or we will all end up like Rosie O'Donnell. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. Last week I talked about something. It relates to the First Amendment, free speech. I do believe that free speech is something that we need to fight to maintain. And I worry that it's being abridged in other parts of the world. We've already seen how many people have been locked up in the United Kingdom for making a social media post or maybe for praying outside of an abortion clinic. The number should be 0. It's in the tens of thousands. Here in America, it's 50. 50 people were arrested in the last year. We took account of it for speech violations. So that makes me comfortable, but I want to be vigilant. And I just saw, as of yesterday, in Australia, if you want to use a search engine to look up something, whether it's Google or Grok or Gemini or ChatGPT, you are now required to verify your ID before you can search the internet. Gee, I wonder what that would be used for. I wonder if there's any danger in your searches being collected live as you're doing them by the government, by a government entity. I wonder if there's any issue with your government. Wake up, Australia. Wake up. It's a very slippery slope. And they are not alone. Other countries are. You don't think the Democrats are looking at this? They are. All right, I have to get out of here. Second hour wrapping up. Before we get out of here, it's just one quick call. It's our old friend Jerome is back from Charleston, South Carolina. I hope your Christmas was good, Jerome.
It was very quiet. I bought myself a sound bar because nobody ever buys me anything. But that's okay. Hey, Michael, what level of Kool-Aid do you drink every day to maintain your deniability as a Republican? Because you got Trump giving a guy 45-year-old convicted of selling drugs and co-conspiring.
I think you need to go to the Jasmine Crockett School of putting a sentence together here, Jerome. That's just rambling. That's not good. Talk to Rosie O'Donnell. It's Opelka in for Plant.